Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for listening in. Today, we're going to talk about the need for financial therapy and what can lead us to that need of financial therapy. But before we get started, as a reminder, this is an educational show and should not be construed as personal financial advice. Full disclosure information is available at ototnow.com. Now, let's get started. Okay, you know what it was like back in March when COVID-19 officially became a pandemic and the market started to sell off significantly. There were a lot, that was the fastest sell off in history, again, 35% in just right around a month. So, pretty dramatic move. Well, there was a lot of panic at the time and a lot of emotion in the market. And it was definitely, there's some decision points in there that which you had to pay attention. In other words, you were going to miss them because things were moving so fast. But if you watch things on TV like CNBC, it can lead you, it can spook you, if you will, into freaking out along with them. So when you think about the purpose of a CNBC or even the mainstream media at large, the issue becomes they don't generally put people on TV that say, don't worry, we have a plan in place, we're executing that plan, and this too shall pass eventually, and we'll be back towards meeting our goals. No, my phone does not ring off the hook to get on TV and say that to people. What you need to do to get on TV is you need to take an extreme position and be ready to duke it out with somebody else who has the other extreme position. That's what makes good TV. And that's why it's just gotten so out of control. But you have a choice. I don't generally get information off of TV. I'm a web-based consumer of information and news. So it's coming in through my phone or through my MacBook or computers at work where I have screens pulled up. And even in the office, I have CNBC on, but I have it muted. So I can see what comes up as far as the banner, but I don't want to listen and get dumber while I'm actually trying to make important decisions. So consider during those times, and you know yourself, if you are inclined to hold on a little too tight into those situations where emotions are going to rise up, we all know that we do not make our best decisions in a panic or while we're emotional. You need to have your plan laid out ahead of time. And if you're starting to freak out, then you need to talk to somebody. So that's what I call financial therapy. And that I say is 50% of my job. 50% of my job is cranking numbers, looking for opportunities, maximizing percentages and probabilities in a market to gain alpha and make more than other people out there. That's the number side. The other side is the people side. Talking to people, trying to break down complex topics into simple terms so people can understand and don't necessarily have all the educational background in finance, and try to put them at ease. Try to set the goals ahead of time, show them how to stay on time, on target, and what they need to do now to ensure that they'll meet their goal later on. We'll do continuous updates along the way, and that's how you can be at ease and live a stress-free life. However, if you choose to do it on your own, which you can, just times like you saw in March, it really probably needed to, if you didn't have a rock solid plan going in for something like that, then yeah, you needed to take a couple of days off work and figure it out. And maybe you didn't have time while the world's falling apart to take a couple of days off work and pay 100% attention to your portfolio. So that's just something to think about. But certainly in times of stress, you might consider turning the TV off, stop checking your app 15 times a day. I'm here. If you're a client of mine, others don't get to contact me, but if you're a client, you can certainly contact me. You know, during the busy times, I do not answer the phone. So come across through electronically, through email or message, so I can very quickly answer your question and be able to balance a lot of people with needs very quickly electronically versus having to talk to folks, because then you find yourself repeating the same thing over and over and over, which is, again, the purpose of the podcast, is to put stuff out there. So when somebody has a question, it's just like, oh, check out 23, or, financial therapy. I can say, check out, the episode on financial therapy. So that's why it's out here. But I want to explain what, if you're using an advisor, whether me or somebody else, you should be, or, I said, everybody has an advisor. And if it's not, if you don't hire one, then it's you. But you need to have a plan in place. And I'm going to use the analogy of this is what it should look like. you should be able to, just like you do with flying on an airline, you're trying to get from point A to point B. You are trying to get from your 30-year-old self to your retired 65-year-old self, and then safely to your 90-year-old self with plenty of money and to live the lifestyle that you want along the way. When you go buy an airline ticket, you board an aircraft and you look up front. Maybe you don't look up front, but there should be professionals. There's two of them sitting up in the cockpit that are trained in this stuff. They know what to do in emergencies. They have everything completely under control. And even better, they even lock the door so you can't get up there and influence them with your brilliant ideas. But that's the idea of having professionals, licensed, skilled, and educated and trained for all of this stuff in charge, so you can do what? Sitting back like these folks. Maybe you work, maybe you sleep. That's up to you, but certainly you should not be worried about the safe operation of the plane from A to B. So here's the analogy. Now with your financial plan, and for those of you that have financial plans, you know, it's all laid out for you. And when the market starts, something happens in the world and the market starts to make a move, and it starts to make a move down. And you flip on, you log into your app or pull out your phone to check on things, or you turn on CNBC, or you start watching Fox or CNN, whatever your flavor is, and you start soaking it all in. Well, if you do that, you are likely to take action. We are type A people. We think that action is always what's required, right? There's an emergency, we're going to take action. We are going to solve the problem. Well, generally that can lead you to make some pretty stupid decisions. So allow me this analogy. What if on an airplane, they piped in a flight safety channel that could monitor the progress of your aircraft at every second of the trip along the way? It was live commentary of people on the ground watching your airplane that have cameras in the cockpit, and every little piece of turbulence. You would have folks on saying that the sky is falling, the airplane's coming apart. 9 out of the last 10 times when I experienced turbulence like that, it was the best time to get out of the airplane. Could you even imagine the chaos that would ensue on the airplane if we had airline commentary coming through to you while you're sitting there on board the airplane? That would freak you out beyond belief. That's why they don't do it. If it starts getting a little bit of turbulence, you'll see the seatbelt line come on. You go, oh, okay, back to sleep. I just won't get up out of my seat right now. If it gets worse than that, you'll hear the captain or the co come on, reassure everybody that things are fine and that they're handling the situation to the best of their ability, and that we'll be on the ground shortly. If it's a situation where the aircraft has to actually divert, whether it's for a maintenance problem or weather, or somebody has an emergency on the airplane where they must land immediately, which can happen with certain health issues, they will simply, you'll hear a voice that to reassure you that here is the plan. We are going to get safely on the ground, and then we will make it right to the best of our ability after we do. So ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm, stay seated, and we'll be on the ground shortly. They pass that on to the crew in the back, which, you know, you can see those people, and they come around, same thing, pointing out what's right and wrong and basically handling the situation to the best of their ability, and everybody gets on the ground safely. That is not what happens in the financial markets. It's insane that, you know, the more upset the market is, the more it's moving, the more people get on to TV. And if somebody wrote a book 20 years ago that the market's rigged, it's going to fail, democracy's over, you know, all that nonsense in my book. Well, if they wrote that book, they've been wrong for 20 years. But you know what? They say the same thing for 20 years in a row. And sometimes for days, maybe a week, sometimes a month, they can actually be right. But think of all those people that were crushed financially that watched the market fall 35% and then went to cash. Yeah, they thought they were brilliant when they did that, but I mean, there was nothing pointing to that from the professional world of money management. There was only the people on TV saying that stuff. And I'll leave you with one last comment. So realize when you're watching TV or on the web, actually, you're always being marketed to. So kind of like mutual funds. Mutual funds are very expensive. Most mutual funds are very lucrative for those that manage money for a living, which means if it's lucrative for them, it's not lucrative for you. But you get a constant flow of the best mutual funds. It's sales. So, you know, it's sales to you, and the advisor that puts you in a mutual fund gets a 12(1)(b) fee, a kickback to the advisor for doing it. So it's just not clean. And you know, the guy that gets on TV and says today's a good day to, you know, now is a good time to buy gold. Well, guess what? I've seen that same guy say that for 20 years. How could like every day be the right day to buy gold, right? How could you continue to listen to that guy? But his message stays the same, because there's going to be a morning when you wake up and you're a little bit on edge because of the way the market's acting, and you're going to buy some gold. You're going to fire up some gold coins. Awesome. And guess what those gold coins are going to do? They're just going to sit there, right? So realize that you're being marketed to, and especially when you're in a state of raised emotions, that you're not making your best decisions. So that's my talk for today. If you need financial therapy, then definitely talk to somebody. Talk to your friend that's smart on the stuff. That may not be the best answer, but if you don't want to hire somebody because you feel like you can't afford to, but you can afford to lose, you know, 30% off your portfolio, but whatever, that's your decision. But certainly if you're freaking out about the market, that is the time to pick up the phone, talk to your advisor, or text or call the advisor and try to have them talk you down from the situation. Obviously, you know how I feel about, there's only one time to get off the roller coaster, really, and that's right at the top where the market starts down. That's when you have to make the hard decisions. So I wanted to leave you something to think about today. So thank you so much for listening in, and try to stay calm out there. We don't know how the COVID thing is going to end, how many resurgences of it's going to be, or a migrant strain, or even after COVID's are over, there will be something else, right? Life is a series of events. A lot of them are good, and some of them are very, very bad. But continue on down that path towards your goals, and don't be affected by the emotions of the daily events. So that's all we have for today's episode. Please reach out through ototnow.com with any questions or comments. Thanks again for listening in. And here's to you fighting the good fight and staying calm every day to be on time, on target with your financial goals. Bye.